Kitco Mining special coverage of PDAC is brought to you by Gold Mining, Uranium Energy Corps, and Uranium Royalty Corps.
Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris, here at the 2025 Prospectors and Developers Association Conference in Toronto, in Canada. Investors are rewarding exploration success. And joining me to discuss this is a very successful CEO at a very successful 2024, and that, of course, is Colin Padget, CEO of Founders Metals and Kitco Mining's 2024 CEO of the Year Award nominee in the non-producer category. Colin, welcome back to Kitco.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Now, Colin, 2024 was an outstanding year for the company. You had a great deal of exploration success at Antino in Suriname. B2Gold increased its investment in the company as you raised a lot of money. Chris Taylor, very successful himself, he joined your board, and of course you've been nominated as Kitco's CEO of the Year. With all that success, what was the highlight for you?
There's a lot of them in there, honestly. I think the big thing was just all of the new discoveries, and as a geologist, getting to make so many new discoveries and get to test so many things is really exciting. But Chris coming on, we had Katie MacKenzie joined us as well in May from her work at Skeena. I think the people, new people coming in, really broadened the team, helped me quite a lot, and made a big difference in us pushing it forward. So I think a lot about the catalysts and what's driven the last 12 months, and it's really been new people coming into the story.
Now, Chris is a very successful young leader as well, as you're rapidly becoming. What kind of things do you talk about? I mean, does he sort of mentor you, even though he's not an old hand, so to speak?
He does for sure. I learn a lot, and have learned a lot from Chris. When he joined, it was actually just before we did the financing that B2Gold came into last fall, and so I think he maybe, on the mentorship or answering my questions standpoint, landed a bit in the hot seat. So it was very helpful to have him there. I mean, there were other people involved in that decision in terms of other companies at the table, and he was very helpful in that respect.
Now, you've raised a lot of money, you continue to raise a lot of money, and I imagine one of the benefits of that is, as an exploration geologist, it allows you to test new ideas, different hypotheses, whereas more capital-constrained companies have to, they're much more restricted in what they can do.
Yeah, we've just come from the more capital-constrained end of that spectrum. It is a big shift. You're worrying about every drill hole and really, focusing on that a lot more when you don't have the dollars and you know that you've got a raise that has to, come right around the corner. And having a lot more money in the bank means that you don't have those pressures. I'd say on top of that, though, we have a lot of support for our plan for 2025's drilling work. We've got 60,000 meters. It's all exploration and expansion work. So getting that kind of carte blanche almost to go out there and test completely new things is a fairly rare thing. Often, you do, when you're constrained on the cash side, have to focus on, growing, stepping out, and then we're able to, step away and be, kilometers away from some of the historic work and some of our own discoveries already and test new things.
So is that the mandate you're getting from the investors, that you've been successful with exploration, just keep on drilling?
I don't know if mandate's the right word. It was really, our team put together that as what we wanted to do this year, and we just had a lot of support from shareholders.
Now, Antino is exciting the market because of the high grade you've been discovering there, and you've had drill hits such as 28.5 meters, grading 7.12 grams per ton. What is it from a, let's say, a geological point of view that makes Antino such a promising exploration target?
Yeah, if you look at orogenic gold projects in the world, a couple of the big things that you want to be close to is you want a big shear zone nearby, crustal scale type shear zone. We've got the Central Guyana shear actually clips the southwest corner of our property, and then all of our maps have these big gold trends drawn on them, where we're connecting up many kilometers apart, big gold zones or hotspots, and those are secondary, tertiary shears coming off of that big central shear, and it's very much a textbook example of where you'd want to be if you're looking for orogenic gold, and that's what we have. So.
You mentioned you've got a 60,000 meter drill program this year, so is that dedicated towards finding more of these shears that are coming off of that main shear zone? At
this point, it's testing, I'd say, along these main trends. We're going to spend about half of those meters expanding on the things that we already have or already understand and know. So it's growing what we know, and then the other half of that really does go into brand new targets, brand new discoveries, and there's a few different layers of data that we're combining at this point. We're taking the understanding that we've put together from the drilling at Upper Antino and the northwest corner of our property, applying that elsewhere. We've already had some success using the tools from that in finding new things. So as we go forward this year and test more targets, I think it's pretty exciting, and I think there's a lot of opportunity or potential for some new discoveries.
Chris Taylor, when he was CEO of Great Bear Resources, had a lot of exploration success, and he continued to expand the resource there at Dixie without actually getting to the point of calculating resource. That's something he left for the company that bought it, Kinross Gold. What's the sort of, let's say the bigger picture strategy for you and founders?
I think, look, we're founders, we're not Great Bear, but it's, we have a similar potential right now. I think we're in a spot where, we're seeing a lot of reaction still from new discoveries. We're seeing reaction from the market still in a positive way from just new impressive drill hits out of the Upper Antino area, which is already quite established. And so there's really no push for us to run towards a resource. I think the biggest value to shareholders comes from us continuing to find new things. It's not how big is Upper Antino for us, it's how many Upper Antinos are there on the property.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about B2Gold. You mentioned that Chris came in just before B2Gold came in. B2Gold obviously very successful in its own right throughout the Americas and elsewhere, including in West Africa where there's similar geological systems as in the sort of Guyana Shield where you're operating. Let's start at the basics. How much does B2Gold own and how did they get involved?
So B2Gold currently has a 5% stake in the company. They have rights up to 9.9%. They got involved actually at PDAC last year was the first place that we met them. We had a core shack here. They had a pretty big group of guys coming around and had a look at our core, talked to Vincent, our chief geologist, and I spoke with a couple of the guys then as well, and just followed up from there, and the relationship grew. We've been really happy with how things have gone with B2. A big part of wanting them involved in the story is we're a young team, founders, and exploration geology is our focus, and so having a bit of access to the what we were talking about earlier, the toolkits that these companies represent, is a big part of what we wanted to see out of them. It's still a relationship where it's not a huge position, so there's no big asymmetry of information that B2 would have relative to someone else in the data room, but it's about building a relationship.
And importantly there, they participated in your last financing, so they've participated more than once. Going back to you mentioned the toolbox there. Before we came on air, Colin and I, we were talking about another company I've spoken to that has a strategic investor, gave us the analogy that, as an exploration company, you have your box of tools, but when a strategic comes in, you get access to all the tools. So from that point of view, Colin, what tools are you looking to sort of use and get access to and deploy and that you perhaps otherwise wouldn't have?
I think, so one of the big ones for us was the information that they have or the understanding they have about the longer stage or longer term development side of this equation. We're doing a lot of baseline type work or long lead item type work, and I really wanted to make sure that anything that does have a long lead, heading into eventual studies, feasibility studies, PEA, etc., that we're ticking all of those boxes going along, and they've certainly helped with answering some of those questions. But then just fantastic geologists that are, as you mentioned, they're familiar with the geology, the Birimian Shield, and it comes right across the Atlantic to the Guyana Shield, and so they see similarities with things they've seen over the ocean, and they've working with our geologists on the ground when they've done visits. It's been helpful.
Are they giving you advice at a practical level? And what do I mean by that? I think a lot of exploration companies, they go out and look to make things perhaps as big as possible to get a better valuation. But obviously for a bigger company to come back in, they're perhaps looking for other things other than just size on its own. Are they giving you some guidance about, okay, things we really want to see if we're going to be interested later on, potentially develop or take you out? We'd like to see these kind of things in place or this kind of information or information presented in a certain way.
Honestly, I'd say no, but only because their comment has generally been, you guys are doing the right thing, just keep doing that, and we're very happy with how things are being managed, and you're obviously doing a good job with the exploration piece, so keep working on it. There's some obvious big boxes that you want to tick. More ground, more discoveries. I think getting it as big as it can, or at least being able to demonstrate potential for them, these bigger companies to come in down the road and do their own work, I think is an important part for us.
Now, you're in the Guyana Shield in Suriname. What are the sort of challenges of operating in that location?
Well, it's still a developing country, so there's early on there were a lot of learning curves, I guess, getting drills on the ground because we operate all of our own rigs. But honestly, it's come together really well. At this point, we've got an excellent crew. We had the Suriname Day here at PDAC yesterday afternoon, where we interacted with government officials and building those connections. And I think, the challenges early on are just the who you know, and we've now been able to build those relationships and have a really good position in the country.
Okay. Putting out high-grade drill results, good intercepts, high-grade drill results obviously gets attention. Getting B2Gold in gets attention. Getting Chris Taylor gets attention. But there's also been a lot of M&A activity recently in the Guyana Shield, particularly in the neighbouring country in Guyana with G Mining Ventures buying B2Gold, and the expectation that G2 Goldfields will be acquired maybe later this year. Obviously, an expression, B2Gold participating 5% stake is an expression of interest, although early stage. At what point do you think founders will be ready for a big transaction?
That's a good question. Right now, with the 2025 roadmap being purely exploration, we're still trying to unlock or understand what the number is or what the value is there at Antino. And until we've done that exploration work, I don't think we really can say. So it's really just keep going before we get into any sort of conversation like that.
Fair enough. Now, 60,000 meters this year. Where do you want the company and the project to be by year end?
Yeah, I think a goal for me is the 60,000 meters, over the 200 square kilometer land package we've hit, most of the big highest priority targets that we're keen on. And then from that 60,000, we can look backwards and make a decision as to whether or not, as to where or what gets included in a global resource down the road, and make plans from there to start working on those sorts of studies, etc.
Well, Colin, congratulations on a great 2024. And also, not only are you one of the nominees for Kitco Mining CEO of the Year Award, you are, in fact, Kitco Mining CEO of the Year Award winner in the non-producer category. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Ed.
Kitco Mining special coverage of PDAC is brought to you by Gold Mining, Uranium Energy Corps, and Uranium Royalty Corps.